This video is called Dona Drake, the African American who fooled the world.
In Hollywood's golden era, image was everything. The right look, the right name, and the right backstory could make or break a career, and few understood that better than Dona Drake. She was a singer, dancer, actress, and band leader who dazzled audiences with her charm and talent. But behind the glamorous persona was a carefully constructed identity, one that hid her true origins. She didn't just change her name, she rewrote her entire story to fit the industry's expectations. Before she became Dona Drake, she was born Eunice Westmoreland on November 15th, 1914 in Miami, Florida. Raised in a working-class black family, she spent much of her early childhood in Norfolk, Virginia, before moving with her family to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her parents, who were of African American and possibly mixed heritage, worked hard to provide for their children, but they lived in an era where opportunities for black entertainers were painfully limited. From an early age, Eunice displayed a natural talent for singing, dancing, and performing. She was the kind of child who gravitated toward music, mimicking the jazz greats she heard on the radio, and entertaining friends and family with her lively personality. She developed a strong singing voice and a gift for movement, making her a natural fit for the stage. Her family recognized her potential and encouraged her to pursue a career in entertainment. She started singing in local clubs and at her family's restaurant, drawing in customers with her soulful voice and effortless charm. By her teenage years, she was already gaining recognition in Philadelphia's entertainment circles, but she knew that breaking into Hollywood or Broadway as a black performer was a nearly impossible feat at the time. During the 1930s, racial barriers in the entertainment industry were rigid and unforgiving. Black actors were often relegated to stereotypical roles, while black singers had limited access to the mainstream music scene. Eunice was ambitious, but she also understood the harsh realities of race in America. She saw other entertainers adopting exotic personas to appeal to white audiences, and she realized that if she wanted a shot at real success, she couldn't step into the industry as Eunice Westmoreland, a black woman from the South. She had to become someone else, and so her reinvention began. She lightened her skin, adopted a new identity, and began presenting herself as Dona Drake, an exotic Latina performer. She even changed her backstory, claiming to be of Mexican or Egyptian descent, and from that moment on, the world would see her as something entirely different from the girl who grew up in Virginia. It was a gamble, but one that would ultimately launch her into Hollywood's golden era. Eunice Westmoreland knew that talent alone wouldn't open the doors she wanted to walk through. In a time when Hollywood dictated who could be a star based on looks and background, she understood that her birth name and racial identity would limit her opportunities. So she crafted a new persona, one that would fit the entertainment industry's obsession with exotic beauty. She first adopted the stage name Una Villon, performing as a singer and dancer in nightclubs. The name gave her a touch of mystery, but it wasn't quite enough. Hollywood wanted marketable, identifiable faces, and at the time, that often meant erasing or reshaping black identity. So she took it a step further and became Dona Drake, a name that sounded both elegant and ambiguous. To complete the transformation, she claimed Mexican heritage, sometimes tweaking the story to say she was from Egypt or even India, depending on what casting directors were looking for. Her reinvention didn't just change her name, it changed her entire life. Publicity materials described her as a fiery Latina entertainer, a woman with a foreign allure that fit Hollywood's fascination with ethnic beauty. She styled herself accordingly, adopting a glamorous, sultry image that played into the stereotypes audiences expected, and it worked. Casting directors weren't interested in a young black woman from Florida, but they were intrigued by a Mexican beauty with an undeniable stage presence. Of course, this transformation came at a cost. While it gave her access to roles she would have never been considered for otherwise, it also meant living a carefully constructed lie. She had to constantly maintain the illusion, never letting the truth slip. She was forced to walk a fine line, embracing an identity that wasn't truly hers, while knowing that if the truth were ever fully revealed, her career could be over in an instant. Dona Drake's early career was built on versatility. She didn't just sing, she danced, played instruments, and could command a room with her presence. She started as a nightclub entertainer, performing in jazz clubs and lounges where her high-energy performances caught the attention of industry insiders. But she wasn't content with just being a nightclub act. She wanted more. During the 1930s, she formed an all-girl orchestra called Dona Drake and Her Girls girl band, where she acted as the band leader. She sang, played piano, and led the group with a confidence that made her stand out in a crowded industry. Her performances were a mix of jazz, swing, and Latin rhythms, catering to audiences who craved something fresh and exciting. It wasn't long before Hollywood came calling. Her first real break came in the late 1930s and early 1940s, when she started landing small roles in films. Her first credited film appearance was in Aloma of the South Seas, 1941, where she played an island girl, a role that reinforced Hollywood's tendency to cast her in racially ambiguous, exoticized parts. Studios saw her as someone who could pass as Latina, Middle Eastern, or South Asian, and that became her niche. Her big moment arrived when she was cast in Road to Morocco, 1942, starring Bing Crosby and Bob Hope. It was a high-profile film, and her role as a Moroccan princess gave her significant screen time. Though the role was far from reflective of her true identity, it was a breakthrough moment that put her in front of mainstream audiences. From there, she continued to work steadily, often appearing in comedies and musicals where her exotic beauty and lively presence were the main draw. She was cast in films like Beyond the Forest, 1949, alongside Bette Davis in Dangerous Money, a 1946, a Charlie Chan film. But no matter how many roles she landed, the parts she played were almost always a variation of the same stereotype: the alluring, mysterious foreign woman. Dona Drake had successfully built a career in Hollywood, but she did so by playing a role both on and off the screen. She had achieved what so many young performers dreamed of: fame, fortune, and recognition. But she had also buried a part of herself to get there, and as time went on, the weight of that decision would begin to take its toll. By the mid-1940s, Dona Drake was a familiar face in Hollywood, but not in the way she may have imagined when she first dreamed of stardom. She had carved out a niche for herself as the go-to actress for exotic roles, the kind that Hollywood loved to romanticize, but never fully respect. She was cast as Middle Eastern princesses, Latin American beauties, and island girls, her true background hidden behind carefully crafted studio narratives. Her energy, charm, and striking looks made her a natural fit for musicals and light comedies. In films like Lady from Louisiana, 1941, and Beyond the Forest, 1949, she played alluring side characters who added flair but were rarely central to the story. Though she appeared alongside A-list stars like Bette Davis, Bing Crosby, and Bob Hope, she was never given the opportunity to lead a film herself. Despite her charisma and versatility, she was boxed in. Hollywood's studio system had strict ideas about who could play what, and even though she had crafted an identity that made her more marketable, it still wasn't enough to push her into true leading lady status. She wasn't alone in this struggle. Many women of color in Hollywood at the time were confined to roles that were little more than stereotypes. They were seen as beautiful and mysterious, but rarely as complex, multidimensional characters. And no matter how much talent she had, Dona Drake was always playing a version of someone else, never herself. In 1944, while working in Hollywood, Dona met William Travilla, a rising star in the world of costume design. Travilla, who would later become famous for designing Marilyn Monroe's iconic white dress in The 7-Year Itch, was instantly drawn to her. Their romance moved fast, and within 10 days, they were married. But behind their whirlwind love story was a complicated reality. At the time, interracial marriage was illegal in several US states, and though Dona had been presenting herself as Latina for years, she was in fact a black woman passing as something else. If the truth had come out, it could have led to serious legal and social consequences. Travilla knew the truth about her heritage, but to the outside world, the couple maintained the story that she was of Mexican descent. Whether or not this created tension in their relationship is unknown, but one thing is clear: Dona spent her entire career hiding who she really was, even from those closest to her. As she moved through Hollywood's social circles, she continued to play the roles she had created, but the pressure of living a lie began to weigh on her. Passing in Hollywood meant never slipping up, never revealing too much, and always being aware that the life she had built could collapse if the wrong person uncovered the truth. By the 1950s, Hollywood was changing, and so was Dona Drake's career. The musical and comedy films that had given her steady work were losing popularity, and younger stars were taking center stage. With limited opportunities and a career built on a carefully constructed identity, she found herself being phased out of the industry. She continued to take occasional roles, but they became smaller and less frequent. By the early 1960s, she had quietly stepped away from Hollywood, retreating into a more private life with Travilla. After years of navigating navigating an industry that never truly accepted her for who she was, she disappeared from the public eye. Her health also began to decline. In 1989, at the age of 74, Dona Drake passed away from pneumonia and respiratory failure. Despite a career that had spanned decades, her name faded into obscurity, her story overshadowed by Hollywood's more well-known figures. Yet, looking back, her life is a fascinating glimpse into the realities of race, identity, and survival in an industry built on illusion. She had talent, beauty, and ambition, but she also had to erase a part of herself to achieve the success she wanted. And while she may not have become a household name, her story remains an important reminder of the sacrifices many black performers had to make in order to navigate Hollywood's rigid and unforgiving system.